and welcome to the MJ Take on Sports Fan Entertainment, continuing my 2016 season recaps for each and every team in the NFL. And today we're talking about the Carolina Panthers, and what a disappointing team indeed. Before the season, I had this team going 11-5, and a lot of Panther fans said, "What are you talking about? We're going to go 13-3 at least." Well, nope. As you finish, 6-10 to end the season, a dreadful year for the Carolina Panthers, and a year in which you really can't even blame injuries. You just have to blame that, man, we weren't very good. Yeah, some people were injured, like Luke Kuechly missing 6 games, or okay, maybe Jonathan Stewart missing some games, but man, this was a team that just simply underwhelmed in 2016, and I felt that, okay, last year, right, when the Panthers went 15-1, I had them going 6-10, and I felt that, hey, the offensive tackles aren't very good. I don't love their cornerbacks, and that proved to be the story this season. So last year just kind of looks like a facade, and now the team that they really are has showcased. But there is hope for optimism, definitely. You were only in the Super Bowl only a year ago, so let's look at this season, and then we'll look ahead to the future. So, some key games from this Carolina Panthers season. Week 1, you guys go to Denver, miss a field goal, and lose the game. A game that, honestly, you should have won. It was a 50-yard field goal attempt by Graham Gano. Completely missed it. You win that, perhaps you go down a different road this season. But then the next week after that, you guys show the Carolina Panthers you should have been a team that could just go and just whoop a bad team like the 49ers. But then from there, you struggle, losing 4 straight games, 3 divisional matchups indeed, and you said, okay, yeah, this Panthers team this year, not very good. They got a couple wins after that, and this is where they actually started to make a real season out of it. They won 2 straight games against the Cardinals and the Rams. They barely lost to the Chiefs because of a Cam Newton interception and whatnot. They beat the New Orleans Saints, and then to me is the next key game where they're going to Oakland. They're going to Oakland, and they have a chance to win a huge game. They were down early, came storming back late, up 32-24. I think the Raiders had Matt McGloin in the game. Correct me if I'm wrong. He was definitely in there for some portion. And the Raiders come back and they upset you guys after you guys were up. I mean, I couldn't believe that game. If the Panthers, to me, win that game, they probably finish the season at least 8-8, but that's not what happened. They end up losing this game, and then the week after that, they go to Seattle tired after that shootout last week, and they get their ass kicked. Cam Newton benched for the first series, a horrible series it proved to be, and this team gets right back to where they were, just a disastrous game where they got their ass kicked by the Seattle Seahawks. Now, again, they were able to show you again the team that they should have been, as they pretty much dominated the Chargers, they pretty much dominated the Redskins, but then they couldn't close the season strong as they lost to Atlanta and lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they really, to me, should have beat the Buccaneers in Week 17. So, thus ends the 2016 season for the Carolina Panthers. Let's look at some offensive performances, and let's look at Cam Newton, the quarterback for this football team, and man, not a great year from Cam Newton. Not impressed with his decision-making, throwing too many interceptions to me compared to how many throws he was throwing. Okay, he only threw 14 interceptions, but he also only threw 19 touchdowns, and he only threw this certain many of passes, right? So not a great year from Cam Newton. Not a terrible year, but not a great year. In fact, I would argue this was his worst year as a professional. Okay, this was a bad year, or maybe even in his life, probably. So not a good year from Cam Newton to me. I thought his rookie season was better. I thought his sophomore slump was better than this year. Not a great year. You look at he was still good though overall. We look at the running backs. Okay, so Jonathan Stewart, to me, he's lost some burst. He's lost some speed, some agility, some dynamicism to his play, and they need to upgrade and spice up this running game a little bit. Fozzie Whittaker, I did like Fozzie Whittaker. He was a nice running back in the receiving game. I liked a little bit of Cameron Artis-Payne, but to me, this running game does need a spark, and I think they're going to look to the draft to get that spark. We'll talk about that later. Let's look at the offensive line. The tackles, bad. Michael Oher, disaster. Only started 4 games, and then he ended up becoming the blind side, as this guy got a concussion that he didn't recover from. And this was a recurring theme for this football team. He ended up being in the concussion protocol for like however many weeks, like 12 weeks or something ridiculous, and he was never seen from again. He became the blind side. Look at Mike Remmers on the right tackle side. A lot of sacks given up ever since he played Von Miller in the Super Bowl. The guy's been scared out of his mind. A bad year from Mike Remmers. Look inside in the interior. Andrew Norwell, good year from him at left guard. Ryan Kalil ended up getting injured, but when he was in there, he was good, but he wasn't in there. Trey Turner, right guard. A little bit of a disappointing year for him. He was only average to me this year when he's usually pretty freaking good, even great last year. So hopefully next year he bounces back. Let's look at the tight ends. Greg Olsen, what a tight end. What a great player. This guy's a great player, and to me, he's the offense MVP this season, over 1,000 receiving yards. Only one drop this year from Greg Olsen, despite as many targets and receptions that he got his way. Incredible year from Greg Olsen. Not impressed from Ed Dickson, the backup tight end. They need to improve to me at backup tight end. We look at wide receivers. Kelvin Benjamin, he was okay, maybe even pretty good, you could say, but to me, he needs to be better than this. This is a guy that has the potential to be a top 10 receiver in this league, and to me, he really wasn't very close. He turned it on late in the season, but not enough for me. He needs to be better than that. Had a very good opening game, had a very good closing game, but the stuff in the middle, not great. Look at the other wide receivers. Ted Ginn, inconsistent year from him, mainly just become a deep threat. He needs to be more than that. Corey Brown disappeared. I'm not sure if he's Philly Brown, if he's Corey Brown. Right now, he's Invisible Brown, right? Because we didn't see him this year. A bad year from Corey Brown. We look at other wide receivers. Devin Funchess, disappointing year for me. This was a guy that we expected to have a little bit of a breakout. I did not see that at all from Devin Funchess. Still not a great route runner at all. He needs to improve. So there goes the There goes the Panthers offense. Look at their defense. We look at their defensive line first. Mario Addison. What a year from Mario Addison. 9.5 sacks for this man. Now, he only became sort of a pass rush specialist, only coming in on pass rushing downs and being a blitz guy, but what a blitz guy he was. We look at the defensive tackles. Kawann short, fantastic year from him. Didn't get the 10-plus sack total, but missed a couple games, so it's all right. We look at Star Lotulelei. A little bit disappointed. This is a guy that, to me, didn't make many splash plays in the run game as I'm accustomed to seeing. But I liked Vernon Butler. I saw some promising things from him. The first-round pick this year out of, I can't remember where, but he's been a good player for this football team. Damn, where's Vernon Butler from? I can't remember, but I like him right now. We look at the defensive end on the other side. Coney Ely, Charles Johnson a little bit. They were all right, but Charles Johnson is a free agent, and he's getting old. He can go. Coney Ely, he's never going to be that guy a lot of Panthers fans want him to be. He's always just going to be okay, guys. I think it's time to upgrade this defensive end position. We look at the linebackers. A great year from Shaq Thompson. Luke Kuechly, we know what we get from him, but the problem is he got knocked out of oblivion. Another concussion issue this year from the Carolina Panthers. I mean, this guy got the sense knocked out of him. Literally. I mean, he got knocked so hard, the boy lost his sense. He was crying on the cart. I don't want to make fun of that, but man, he got the sense knocked out of him. We look at Thomas Davis, getting older, but still effective. We look at the secondary, okay? Look at the cornerbacks. James Bradbury. Now, he started out slow, but I think he really turned it on late in the season. I think this guy's going to be a good cornerback for this football team. Look at the other cornerback, Daryl Worley, and I did not like the draft pick when they took him. He actually also improved as the season went on, but we'll see how he does in the future. I'm not sure how I like him moving forward. He's all right. We look at the other cornerbacks, Zach Sanchez. I thought he was going to do pretty well. Ended up struggling a lot for this Panthers team. Really disappointed in him. We look at the other cornerbacks outside of him. Teddy Williams, not very good. The cornerbacks this year were not very good for Carolina. They missed Josh Norman. Duh. We look at the safeties. How about Kurt Coleman, who played both free and strong safety this year? Normally at free safety, but with injuries, started playing some more in the box. And this is a guy that, to me, really benefits when his cornerbacks are good. When they're not good, he struggles a little bit. But I think if they can get better cornerbacks in there, he will go back to the play he had last year when he's getting a bunch of interceptions. Let's look at the other safety position. Trey Boston, he's also a guy that is better when other guys around him are playing better. In run game, run defense, good. good. Coverage, not great, but he's more of a strong safety, so we expect that. We move on to the Defensive MVP award. To me, it's very close this year. Luke Kuechly did not play enough games for me. Only 10 games played. I can't pick you as the MVP. Kawann Short, to me, got the award. Just being consistent, being there. Shaq Thompson was close, but to me, it went to Kawann Short this year. So, let's look back at the 2016 draft and my draft grades for this draft class. Vernon Butler, I gave it a B+. I think it's been about that. I think he may even improve beyond that in the future. I gave James Bradbury a B. I think he's been a B+ right now. I think he's superseded my expectations just a little bit. Look at Daryl Worley. I gave it a C-. I think it's been better than that. Probably a B- instead, but not great either. Zach Sanchez, I gave it an A. I think it's proven to only be perhaps probably a C+, maybe a B- because he was only a 5th round pick anyway. So the fact that he's on the roster doing something is encouraging. We look at the tight end, Bo Sandlin. I gave him an A+, but I think you have to give it an F, right? Because he's no longer on the team, so that's unfortunate. And he's now in Green Bay. Don't be surprised if in the future you do see Bo Sandlin, because I did like him a lot coming out of Montana State. I give this whole draft class a B. I think it's proven to be a B. I think this grade was perfect. Let's move on to just a quick little anecdote I want to add about this defense. So, there's a very interesting thing about this defense this year statistically. And when I went back and watched the film, I saw something pretty interesting. So, this Panthers team got 47 sacks this year. That's a lot, okay? That is a lot in the NFL. So, with these quarterbacks not being as bad as a lot of people thought they were later on in the season, why did they struggle so much, man? I think Ron Rivera and this defensive staff, Sean McDermott, they really, maybe because they were covering for the corners, but man, they were blitzing too much to me. I thought there were too many blitzes. I saw too many fronts with Coney Ely, Mario Addison, Charles Johnson, and some other pass rushers on the field at the same time, blitzing their linebackers, AJ Klein getting after the quarterback, Shaq Thompson getting after the quarterback. A little too much for me. I think in the future they should let these cornerbacks grow a little bit more and trust them more in coverage, because I think they got a little too many sacks this year. I mean, it's a little odd to say, but to me, just too much blitzing this year from the Carolina Panthers. They need to let these linebackers go back a little bit and let the coverage do its job. So, with that in mind, now let's get ahead to 2017 and the off-season outlook. Let's look at the cap space. So $62 million in cap space for the Carolina Panthers this upcoming off-season. That's a lot. And you wonder why they didn't re-sign Josh Norman, but whatever. They didn't. So, key free agents, and there's a lot of them. Let's look at defensive tackle Kawann Short. Need to re-sign him. Hey, Dave Gettleman, you said, hey, I don't like re-signing cornerbacks. I don't like re-signing guys outside. I like guys in the trenches inside. Okay, prove it. Re-sign Kawann Short now. Okay, if you really care about building in the trenches and, you really like to emphasize the trenches, prove it and re-sign Kawann Short. Gotta re-sign this guy. Charles Johnson, getting old, you can let him go. I wouldn't care. Mike Remmers, bad year from him. If you guys move on, though, you have to have a better option, so just be prepared for that. Ted Ginn, to me, he's a nice fit for this offense, but at the same time, he's getting a little frustrating, so I don't really care what you do. We look at Mario Addison. A nice year from him, man. Got to re-sign him to me. And then AJ Klein, disappointing for me. Go ahead and get rid of him. So, what are the team needs for this football team? I look at the offensive tackles, both left and right. Michael Oher, to me, cannot continue to start. Right tackle, Daryl Williams. I forgot to talk about him. He's okay. If you like Daryl Williams, fine. But I put him only at right tackle. And if you do that, then you still, to me, need a left tackle. Go protect Cam Newton's blind side. I think that is something that is absolutely necessary this offseason. We look at defensive end, especially if Mario Addison leaves and Charles Johnson leave, they're going to need a new defensive end there. Definitely, maybe even two. We look at running back. To me, they need to spice up this run game. Get someone in there like a Leonard Fournette or Dalvin Cook to spice things up. Maybe a free agent running back as well. They got to get something new to me. Jonathan Stewart ain't getting it done anymore. We look at free safety. To me, it is a need. I was never a big Kurt Coleman fan. He's a guy that can succeed again when players around him are better, but I would look to upgrade it. Possibly they won't, and that's fine, but I would. We look at cornerback. It's a need, but not as much as a lot of people would think. So that's why it's so low on this list. To me, Just let James Bradberry grow. Let Darryl Worley grow. They can end up being pretty good. It's just when you started them so early, of course they're going to struggle. But late, they ended up playing pretty well. They were pretty good against Tampa Bay. They were really good against Washington. They were really good against San Diego. Let them grow. We look at the draft picks for this football team. They have 8 draft picks. I believe there's like a 7th-round pick that could or could not go to, I think, Cleveland. There's a really weird trade there that I really can't understand right now. There's a lot of sources that are off on this trade right now. So possibly 8, but it's a 7th-round pick that is with uncertainty right now. So we look at the potential free agent acquisitions for this football team. Offensive tackles. Andrew Whitworth, the left tackle for the Cincinnati Bengals, a guy that's probably going to retire or stay with the Bengals, but I included the name anyway. Let's look at some other tackle positions. And the problem is there's not many left tackles available in free agency, but I included these names. Riley Reiff, a guy that played left tackle for his first 3 years in the league, I want to say, but then they ended up playing right tackle this year. I would not go there because, again, he wasn't a great left tackle, but they could. Menelik Watson, a guy that played right tackle primarily, but if you want to play him at left tackle, or if you decide that, hey, we need to upgrade both tackle positions, he's a possibility, as is Riley Reiff. And also Ricky Wagner, again, primarily right tackle for Baltimore, but he could be a left tackle possibly. Look at Matt Kalil of the Minnesota Vikings. Hasn't been great ever since the rookie season, but perhaps you could save him kind of like you saved Michael Oher. Now, the problem is you only saved Michael Oher for a season, and then he proved to be terrible once again, especially when you need him to be least in the Super Bowl. But perhaps you could do it again. So, let's get some defensive ends for this football team. Jason Pierre-Paul, DeMarcus, Ware, Jabaal, Sheard, Nick Perry, and William Gholston. There are some heavy hitters here, boy. But hey, again, Dave Gettleman, you're telling me, hey, we like to spend money in the trenches. Let's prove it and go sign one of these big boys at defensive end. Let's look at some running backs now. Latavius Murray, Adrian Peterson, Jamaal Charles, Eddie Lacy. I know Adrian Peterson and Jamaal Charles are not free agents, but they are some serious cap casualty candidates, so you have to look there. Now, Adrian Peterson and Cam Newton in the same backfield is very exciting. Now, maybe AP's done, maybe he's not. We'd find out for sure. Jamaal Charles, maybe he's done. We'd find out for sure. We look at Latavius Murray and Eddie Lacy, not great running backs, but I think they may be improvements over Jonathan Stewart. Eddie Lacy, maybe not so much, but Murray, I think he would be. We look at free safety options. Tony Jefferson and Rashad Johnson, not many free safety options in the free agent class this year. We look at cornerbacks. Prince Amukamara, Terrence Newman, Leon Hall, and Valentino Blake. You'll notice that none of these names are big names. None of these names are number 1 cornerbacks. To me, you don't need a number 1 cornerback. I think James Bradberry will prove to be that. The thing is right now is you need some veteran presence in there. Definitely, my God. And you need just some slot guys. So I got a lot of slot guys and veteran presence here. We look at wide receiver now. Kendall Wright, Willie Snead, Kenny Stills, Pierre Garçon, and Deshaun Jackson. You will notice about all these guys, they're high percentage guys. These are guys that you can throw the ball to a lot, heavy and often. I know people look at Deshaun Jackson and say, okay, deep threat. And same goes with Kenny Stills, but they also catch a number of underneath balls as well. These guys, to me, will help increase Cam Newton's completion percentage in the long run, and it could be great adds to this offense. We look at some potential draft picks with your 8th draft picks. With your 1st round pick, Cam Robinson, the offensive tackle out of Alabama. They're not going to take Cam Newton again. Cam Robinson, the offensive tackle out of Alabama. And this is a guy that could protect Cam Newton. It may be a little bit of a reach, but he would definitely get the job done. We look at Leonard Fournette and Dalvin Cook. To me, if you want to spice up your run game, here's an opportunity. And some may not believe that Leonard Fournette may fall this far. I think it's very, very possible. I think Dalvin Cook could be the first running back drafted at number 4, and then Leonard Fournette falls all the way down here. If he's here, to me, you got to take him. Fournette and Cam Newton bruising people for the next 5 to 10 years. My goodness. We look at some safety options. How about free safety? Malik Hooker. How about strong safety? Jamal Adams. How about strong safety? Jabril Peppers. All viable options here. To me, there's a lot of options for this Panthers pick. We look at some wide receivers. Mike Williams, John Ross, Corey Davis. To me, all possible. One of them will probably rise to this value. To me, Mike Williams isn't there yet. A lot of people think he is. I don't think he is. So we'll see. But to me, all three of those guys are possible here. Look at some defensive ends. Tim Williams, Derek Barnett, and Solomon Thomas, to me, all viable options at number 8. Even Solomon Thomas, I think he's really rising lately from what I'm hearing and seeing. So Solomon Thomas could be drafted this high. Look at some second-round options. Offensive tackle Garrett Bowles, offensive tackle Roderick Johnson, running backs Dante Foreman and Christian McCaffrey, and also Jeremy McNichols out of Boise State, I think. All viable options to me, all running backs, and they need to spice up again. They need to spice up their running game. We look at some wide receivers, Juju Smith-Schuster, D.D. Westbrook, Isaiah Ford, all viable and real options to me in the second round. Look at some defensive ends, Ryan Anderson, Takaris McKinley, DeMarcus Walker, DeJuan Smoot, all viable options to me, and free safety Budda Baker. So there you go. Those are my thoughts on the Carolina Panthers 2016 season and my thoughts on their upcoming 2017 offseason. Again, this is a team that, if they do everything right, they could be back in the playoffs next year. But they've been making the playoffs now like every other year, pretty much. It feels like, at least. Like they made it 12-4 in like 2013. They barely made it in 7-8-1 the year after that. And then, they made the year in the Super Bowl, whatever. So they could easily be back in the Super Bowl, but they need to fix the tackles to me. They need to fix Cam Newton, get him an underneath wide receiver, get him some high percentage throws. Offensive coordinator, can't remember his name right now, but he needs to do a better job of getting Cam Newton those high percentage throws. Spice up the run game. Get some better players on defense, but not too many to me, because I think that you guys really played well the second half of the season. Wins in San Diego, win against Washington and whatnot. So we'll see. But there you go. Those are my thoughts. What are yours? Comment down below. I want to know. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, and most importantly, to subscribe. And until next time, this has been the MJ Take on Sports Fan Entertainment, and I'm out. Peace.